Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelove, and this is Speedplay Touggourt number 21. So, it is no secret that we have been planning a war against the Ottoman Empire. And at the moment, we're busy just eating the scraps of all of the countries they've been forced to release as they've begun to collapse. It's kind of sad. They were our longest running ally, and after a very brutal war in which they helped us, they have just never begun to recover, and they have been fighting basically constantly against slews of Europeans. At the moment, we're just eating all of these countries to their northern, basically their northern flank. They have very small armies, very weak, no alliances. We just go in with about 80,000 men and clear the whole area out. There's really not much more to it. California is in a coalition against us, which is a bit weird. But ultimately, we are completely ready to declare war on the Ottomans. They are being invaded by Austria, which we're probably just going to wait and let that happen. And we are still at war with Crete, who called in Scandinavia because for whatever reason they're Protestant, as well as, well, all the countries to their north. So as that goes forward, we are just going to annex those regions, core them. Hopefully Iraq will get its independence and we'll just be able to declare war on an independent Iraq. That is the most ideal way that this will go forth. I looked at Persia to see if they have any nice cores that we could maybe give them back. They really don't, but we may end up doing that anyway if we can get 100% overextension without actually filling out the whole war. Meanwhile, we just continue to annex all of these countries to the Ottomans' north. It's going to look completely terrible for a very long time. The Iraqis do get their independence, which is great. I'm fairly certain the Ottomans still have their cores on Iraq, though, so we're just going to leave Iraq as it is until we declare war on the Ottomans and take their lands. Iraq doesn't have any cores in Ottoman lands, but the Ottomans have a lot of cores in Iraq, so we would have to wait until it was fully done coring if that was what we wanted to do. And quite frankly, I don't want to wait that long. Crimea, as it turns out, is allied to the Ottomans and would have joined them if we declared war on the Ottomans, so we just declare war on Crimea now to get it over with, and to free up our troops when we do and eventually fight the Ottomans. Now, the Crimean army just sort of runs away, and it's slightly quicker than us, or at the very least at the same speed and just ahead of us, and we end up not really able to catch it, which is kind of funny, but also incredibly annoying. We do end up merging two of our armies together because it looks like they're just going to charge over and attack our weaker army. And at first the battle doesn't go very well, but we bring in all the reinforcements which had been following them forever. And we win. Now we just split our army in half because, quite frankly, I don't want to chase the Crimeans around, and they seem like they'll just come back at some point anyway. So hopefully they'll do that. Also, one of our client states has brought its army up, and it's just roaming through Syria at the moment on its way up north. So hopefully they'll chase down the Crimean army. At any rate, we don't want the entirety of Crimea. We just want to get their Black Sea border. We can't take their capital. Once again, this is a really old patch. We do make peace with Crete, though, which is great. That gets Scandinavia out of the war with us. Crimea's army sneaking up on the eastern Black Sea. They went all the way around in order to attack one of our weaker armies. They lose the battle, and at that point we just start splitting our forces off to siege out all of Crimea, and we'll see what we can get with that. Now, the Ottomans have made peace, so they're going to grow in power relatively quickly because now they'll just build their army back up. And it really seems like the thing, more than anything else, that has damaged them was the fact that they weren't at peace for any significant amount of time. I go ahead and verify that we aren't coring anywhere they still have cores on, and we do just go ahead and declare war. Now, this may not be the best timed thing, as our armies, we ended up sending them all into Crimea so we wouldn't have to be in Crimea while we're fighting the Ottomans, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. So that was a bit ill-conceived. However, we've essentially won the war in Crimea. We do have a bit of revolutions in Syria, and there is actually a very unfortunate battle going on in Europe. But it looks like we'll be able to win that, and we just bring 40,000 men back down from the Ottomans to defeat our rebels. And I'm going to split all of these massive siege stacks in half because it's really just completely ridiculous to have such large sieging forces. And we're going to send them all down into the Caucasus, where we are having a bit of an issue. Meanwhile, our navy has just unrivaled dominance. There are more and more revolts, which is going to be a bit of an issue and distract us significantly from the Ottomans. However, luckily, okay, we do have more revolts even. One is fighting an Ottoman army, though, and it wins pretty quickly. There is an Ottoman force led by a 3-star general, which we're going to have to worry about. But ultimately, we're just going to first defeat the rebellions, and there is yet another. We didn't raise autonomy in any of these areas that we just took over, which is becoming rather obvious now. Luckily, that just sort of breaks the Ottoman advance, as they can only go through one province now. We get a new heir, which is really great. I didn't even bother to send for a trained person to help our last heir, as they're quite frankly not that great. And at this point, we're going to just chase down this Ottoman army. We miss it, but we hit one of their sieging forces. And the Ottoman army is just charging north. We manage to get enough forces nearby that it stops. And we'll hopefully defeat these rebels, defeat that Ottoman army, and swing around. We've defeated most of the rebels, which is great news. That's probably what we're going to get from Crimea, just that small portion of their land. There we go. And other than what we're going to take from the Ottomans and the capital of Crimea itself, we've essentially got all that we want for our border in the north. I was playing around with the idea of making a client state or other form of indirect control over that region, but the borders would have just looked a bit odd and we wouldn't have got everything. So we're going with direct control. Hopefully it won't become a terrible, terrible problem when we fight either Russia or Austria, which will probably be very quickly after this war with the Ottomans. But we're going to be in a great position for it. The Ottomans just cannot really fight. We are just going around. They have a few very annoying armies with 3-star generals on their islands, but we're going to hit them with overwhelming force. So as we just sail around taking over their islands, it will admittedly free up their 3-star generals to fight on land, but our client states are just making short work of their armies as we siege out their entire countryside. And it's working pretty well. We're going to get quite a bit of land from this. We won't be able to take Constantinople, but my goal is that we're going to at least isolate Constantinople from the rest of the Ottoman territory. Hopefully no European power comes running in and steals Constantinople out from under us, which I really, really hope is not me foreshadowing, because that would be terrible. And in fact, I'm gonna knock on wood really quick because I really don't want to have to deal with that. At any rate, the Ottomans are definitely not putting up very much of a fight anymore. They have a small army still on the field. Luckily, our client states take the initiative and just destroy it. We will probably have to end up chasing it down a bit, but ultimately, all that's left is the funeral. There is not going to be very much of an Ottoman Empire at the end of this. We do have to deal with yet another revolt, thankfully only one force this time, and we begin to see what sort of peace deal we can get from the Ottomans. Also, I tested something out. I had heard that you can proclaim a guarantee on a country, which basically means that you'll join them if anyone attacks them, and then you can go ahead and revoke that guarantee, and it will shorten your peace deal to 5 years of truce, because when you revoke a guarantee, it gives you a truce. Well, I tested that out just now, and it didn't actually work. I kept the original peace deal and treaty, so I will still have to wait until 1792 to declare war on Crimea again, but it was an interesting theory and I tried it out. It didn't really cost us anything. Meanwhile, there is a small Ottoman army still left, but it's realistically not going to be that much of a problem, and we have a large army on the way. However, a city-state wants independence. Venice is getting all worked up about wanting to be its own country again. So instead of destroying that small Ottoman army, we're just going to send 40,000 men to deal with that. And we did. It was pretty easy. I imagine if this had happened earlier, that would have been a terrible event that would have really done us no favors. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, and we can go ahead and just get all the lands that we want from the Ottomans right now. I want to be able to fully annex Persia. The fact that they have that one little exclave or enclave in the Ottomans is very annoying. And ideally, okay, basically what we're going to do with this is make, for one, the borders in our northern portion better. We're going to cut off Constantinople, finish taking Greece, and get Persia enough lands that we can fully annex them in our next war. Now, it doesn't look like that will actually work. We'll be able to just mess around with this peace deal a bit. We release Bulgaria, which further isolates Constantinople and gives us a target in 5 years that we can go ahead and annex. Persia we can probably go to war with immediately. And Iraq we're going to go to war with now so that the Ottomans don't attempt to reconquer it. But as you can see, the Ottomans are now just Anatolia and a bit further to the east. So hopefully they'll break a bit more on their own. I don't really count on that. I imagine they're going to have a bit of a comeback now that they don't really border anyone in Europe all that much. They still border Austria in one single province they hold in Europe. Meanwhile, we're converting quite a bit of the world to Islam, and we do declare war on Iraq. Now, I notice Kiev has a large amount of cores in Austria, so we're going to go ahead and gather up an army to just annex Kiev, and then we'll release them as a vassal, which will, in the process, make them Sunni Arabs, or Sunni Muslims. So we go ahead and declare that war. It'll be just a really short little thing. They don't have any allies. And we're probably not going to take it upon ourselves to clean up Eastern Europe, because that is just a terrible disaster. Instead, we're going to fight the revolts that break out. There's a very annoying one on Crete, but we have just overwhelming force. We're also clinging very close to the top of our military and diplo points, so we go ahead and just spam buildings across the countryside. And realistically, we're going to end up in a war against Austria in the very near future, as soon, most likely, as our truce ends with them, as they'll probably join another coalition against us. That is almost certainly going to be the focus of next time. I may prolong it as they have a significantly more powerful army than we do, and we actually do have a large amount of land that they border and could realistically attack. Luckily, as my navy has been showing, we are able to quickly bring armies basically anywhere that they're needed. And while I didn't mention this, we are constructing the Suez Canal, and it should be done before we can go to war with the Ottomans again. I'm not going to invest any of our points into it, so it's going to be delayed severely. Meanwhile, we do go ahead and release Kiev. They are our vassal, they are Sunni. We go ahead and park our army on them in case any revolts occur. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.